Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your reaction to Manchester United's win, our first win in the Europa League, and it's against Paok. We win 2-0 with an Ahmad Masterclass, and Ruud van Nistelrooy is the manager to get Manchester United their first win in the Europa League. We're going to do the player ratings. Look, I would describe it as the good, the bad, and the downright frustrating. It was boring at times. It was frustrating at times. Let's not forget those ridiculous diagonals. But I think, if I'm being completely honest, the big thing I would say, and I can hear myself on something else here. Let me just mute it. The big thing I would say is we need to start off with Ahmad, and we need to say that he's got to start. He's got to start. I want to applaud all of you. We're not always right. You know, there'll be people talking toxically about players in the chat. There'll be people defending their players. Player FC will be here. There'll be all sorts going on there. Ruud needs to stay. Ruud needs to go. Everyone has different opinions is what I'm trying to say. But in fairness, pretty much since January, most of you have been saying, free Ahmad. Why is Ahmad not playing? And then for the last 2 months, we've been saying collectively, why is Garnacho playing on the right? Why is Rashford playing on the right? Why are they swapping? Let them fight it out on the left and put Ahmad on the right. And tonight, Ahmad only came off because he was injured. We were brilliant down the right-hand side. Mazraoui was the second best player for me behind Ahmad, and it worked really, really well. And what happened on the left? Garnacho, I don't think it was terrible, but he was quiet. And Rashford was quiet when he came on. So you've got two players that have been keeping Ahmad out of the team who aren't particularly tearing it up, and then he plays and does well. He's our best right winger. Just play Ahmad. And also, what I would say about Ahmad is, this kid, or whatever you want to call him, because I can't remember how old he is. He's not a teenager anymore, is he? I think he's about 22. But this lad is an example of what is important as Amorim comes in and what the problem is with Manchester United. Over the last 11 months, he's been ignored. He probably should have been playing games. In fact, evidence suggests tonight that he should have played more. Has he thrown his toys out the pram? Has he leaked to the media? Has he done social media posts or anything like that? No. And at times, I mean, he probably should have started in the FA Cup final. People forget that. He ended the season well. I think he should have started in the FA Cup final. He didn't. He did well in pre-season, started a few games and then was out of the team for some reason. So I don't think he's been treated that well. And yet he's kept his head down, been professional and waited. And now, here he is, in a game that wasn't great, but he can walk out of it with his head held high when some people did have bad games. Rasmus had a bad game. Bruno, I thought, had a bad game. As I said, Garnacho and Rashford didn't really do much on the left. I wouldn't say they had bad games, but they were very quiet. Dalot, I think, had a bad game. So Ahmad walks out of that game with Mazraoui and one other, I'll mention in a minute, and they can hold their heads up high. And I think maybe this is something that's going to happen more at United. You've got to take the positives. You've got to be honest about the negatives. But I think so many times everybody wants to throw everybody into the same group. And there are 2 or 3, 4 players that come out of that game today who I think did well. And there's probably 5 or 6 who didn't. And Ahmad certainly deserves credit. And he's an example as well. Like, we know there are people who play a lot of minutes. We know there are people who don't get subbed. And then there are people like Ahmad who I think have been treated badly. And I think that his attitude tonight is brilliant, and he reaps the benefits. And really, he shouldn't be coming out of that team. But unfortunately for Ahmad, we're now going to get a new manager who might not play with the right winger. So, but then again, I think in an Amorim system, you could see Ahmad behind the striker in one of the 2 positions, or you could maybe see him playing on the right-hand side as well. So hopefully he will be a player that Amorim really appreciates. Look, I think looking at the game itself tonight, I thought it was very Ten Hag reminiscent. I don't know about you. I said the same about Chelsea. I want to just say Ruud van Nistelrooy is an interim. He stepped in and done a job for us that does need to be appreciated. We need to win on Sunday. That is absolutely crucial to Amorim that we win on Sunday. Winning tonight is absolutely crucial because we've got to get through. Amorim's got to be in the knockout stages to have a chance of making us win it. We've got to beat Leicester at the weekend to have a chance of getting near the top 6. So Ruud isn't just like, he's done a job for us. And that job will come to an end in one way, shape or form on Sunday. But the football's not great. It's not great. It was horrible in the first half. I mean, it's coming from the manager telling Onana to hit long diagonals, and it's infuriating. But it's Ten Hag ball. Ten Hag was doing this, and Ruud was Ten Hag's right-hand man, and they did it together for 3 months. So we are still very much... I just want to win that game against Leicester, and then it starts. I know people want to moan about the way we're playing, and we're still not doing this, and he's still doing that, and we're misplacing this, but we are in that sort of treading water situation where the most important thing that matters is the result. It is. So look, there was a lot you could pick apart. At times it was ugly. At times it was infuriating. As I said, I can't stand the diagonals. There was a few people like shooting when they could have passed. The same problems were there. And we're not going to see those problems begin to be solved until we get the new coaching team in. So I'm not going to delve into it too massively. But what I would say in relation to that is that we do need Amorim to come in and be ruthless. And I think even tonight, you can see where that ruthlessness is. Bruno, for me, I know he got an assist and I know he made 2 or 3 good passes. But as I said in the watch-along, if he did 30% of his game good, I think he did 70% of his game bad. And let's not forget, crosses, corners, not hitting their man, passes, selfish shots. I thought he had a really bad game. But there was 2 or 3 things that he did quite well. But if you keep a player on the pitch for 90 minutes and he's your playmaker, he's going to have so much of the ball that not every pass is going to be awful. But again, I think this has been Bruno for 11 months, and you're either on board with it or you're not on board with it. But for me, I really like the player. I really do. You can see his work ethic. He's not downing tools. He's just not at the level he needs to be. He probably runs and puts more effort in than anybody. You can never doubt Bruno's commitment to the cause. And you can never doubt that he's likeable. I really like him. But, you know, if your mate goes down the pub and you love your mate and he keeps turning up with no trousers on, are you going to tell him? Like, you know, you need to pull your trousers up, Bruno. Like, you need to be better than what you are. It's not toxic. It's not hate. It's not an agenda. For 11 months now, he's been pretty much like tonight, where in a game, he'll play 90 minutes and there'll be some bits that are good and there'll be a load of things that are just massively frustrating. And that's got to change because he's not going to get kicked out of the team. I think for Amorim, he's going to be really important. But we keep saying he's got to change the way he plays. His passing and his movement are not going to be right if he keeps doing it. So we've got to be ruthless. Amorim has to be ruthless. Like, we can't, if he accommodates underperforming players, he will sink himself. There are holes in the ship that he's got to plug. As well, I completely agree. A lot of people are talking about Rasmus tonight. I said after 65 minutes, I'd be taking him off. Like, it's just not working. I still think that we're not going to be able to judge him until he gets service properly. But tonight, it was a bad performance. Like, what do you want me to say? I don't need to start slagging him off, saying to sell him or anything like that. We've got a new manager come in. We've seen what he's done with Gyökeres, and I hope he can do it with Rasmus. And if he can't do it with Rasmus, he'll have to get another striker in. We've got to be realistic. But that journey needs to start before we can start jettisoning and making decisions. But tonight it wasn't good enough. I would have took him off. And, you know, Xerxes could have come on for half an hour instead of 5 minutes. So I would like to see more ruthlessness. Nobody's bigger than the badge. And Manchester United need to see that. And that's why Ahmad's message is so positive tonight, because there's a player that I think we have been ruthless with, undeservingly ruthless at times. And he has responded to that tonight. So I'm very, very, very happy with that. And he's got to start. He's got to start on Sunday. Who starts on the left will be very interesting, because I'm not too sure how that will work out. Will it be Garnacho? Will it be Rashford? We were quiet down that side tonight, and I think most of that happened because Dalot was poor. You think about, I mean, bloody hell. Just very quickly before we move on, what about that chance for Paok? I mean, I think that was that Dalot, or was it? I wouldn't have thought it was Johnny Evans, but I thought Dalot had a bad night tonight, and I think Ahmad had a good night because he had Mazraoui. I know we're going to talk about it in the player ratings, but his passing. If you go back, I wouldn't watch that game again if you paid me. But if you want to just watch 5 minutes, watch the first 5 minutes of the second half. And Mazraoui's passing, it's not just he's paying a 10-yard pass. It's powerful, it's accurate, and it's progressive. He is just so consistent. I know we spoke about him after the Chelsea game, but he is just so impressive. And I think that massively helped Ahmad tonight. Ahmad's game was good, but having Mazraoui with him, they worked in tandem so well. And God, it's far from the Neville and Beckham days, but what I wanted to say is that if you've got a fullback and a winger that are working well together, things like that can happen. And it's nowhere near on the levels of what we've had in the past, but we don't do that enough. I mean, our fullbacks don't get forward enough. We don't overwhelm enough. So I thought Mazraoui was fantastic tonight. But look, it's a win. And I think some people just want to find the negatives, and that's fine. It's all about opinion, of course it is. But for me, I'd rather look at the positives. I think Mazraoui was brilliant. I think Ahmad was brilliant. There's somebody else I want to mention as well. But there are negatives. But what do you want me to do? Do you want me to change the title from Ahmad Masterclass to sell Bruno and Rasmus and Garnacho and Rashford? And what's the point in being negative? We already know the problems at the football club. And we know that Amorim is being brought in to help with those because we've just sacked our bloody manager. I mean, there are negatives, but we're not going to solve them till Amorim comes in. So for me, job done, take the positives, let's do the same against Leicester, and then let's really go to work, because Ruud's not going to be the solution anyway. And I tell you what I wanted to say. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, when we were talking about Ten Hag maybe being sacked, and I said, they're probably just going to, if they sack him, they'll probably go with Ruud till the end of the season. Am I the only one thinking, I'm glad that never materialised? Because, no offence to Ruud, but I don't really think the football's that good. And we never got the manager bounce either, did we? So I'm very happy that we've got Amorim, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to read some of your super chats and some of your comments, and then we'll go into the player ratings. Make sure you mark every player out of 10, 6 being the average, and put the star next to Ahmad, let's be honest. I believe Bruno perfectly suits on the counter system where he can make his typical passes, play freely anywhere, try all sorts of things. But in a system that's more structured and well-drilled, he struggles a bit. I believe he can adapt his game. Mojo, in the space of a paragraph, you've probably just nailed it. I mean, he's absolutely spot on, isn't he? Mojo for the win. I think you're absolutely right. I think Bruno suits a counter system. I think he likes to free roam. I think he likes to try things. And I don't think he works well in a structured system. Well, he's about to go and play in a structured system. I also agree he can adapt, but he's got to adapt. It's not criticism. I believe Bruno can play in a sporting team that's managed by Amorim. I think Bruno could play in that team on Tuesday night and be important to it. But he's got to adapt, because the way he plays at the moment is completely and utterly the opposite of what we're going to need. Before the game, I thought today will be the game for level of Bruno, but he's completely below average. Alarm bells if Portuguese favouritism takes place. Look, if he adapts, we'll be fine, Ankit. For the last few minutes, might as well subbed in Amas instead of Xerxes and let Rasmus finish the match, says Rames. Lone Hoyland out, says Harvey. Gareth gifted a 5 memberships. You're a legend, Gareth. Thank you very much. Passive and lacklustre, words I associate too often with United at the moment. Hope to see that change with Amorim. I think there were a few players tonight, actually, Patrick, who, even look. I even include the subs who were just, passive. But you know what? I said it at half time. These players are not mates, and I'm not talking about mates off the pitch. I mean, when you watch Liverpool, it's a brother in arms, isn't it? And same with Manchester City, same with Arsenal. On that pitch, they might not like each other off it. Look, in '99, it was the same. It's well known that Sheringham and Cole didn't like each other, but they played for each other. As a team, we're not collective. We're not. We don't look like a team. And we haven't looked like a team for years, but we're not. When Ronaldo was here, we weren't a team. We knew there was toxicity in the dressing room. That's one of the first things that Amorim's got to knock down and rebuild. They don't look like a team. And when you look at the bad points from today, because there was the good, there was the bad, and there was the frustrating. But when you look at the bad points, how many times are we in a position and we're misplacing a 5-yard pass? Even Ahmad did it a couple of times. Garnacho did it. Bruno did it a lot. These are 5-yard passes. I mean, if I see, I don't know, Ahmad trying to switch the ball 40 yards along the ground and it goes slightly to the left, I'm sort of like, well, it's a difficult pass. But these are 5-yard passes that we were missing today. And that to me is just, they're not in tune with each other. Like when you're in, I mean, I don't know, I've played the game. I'm sure many of you have played the game. Even when you're playing 5-a-side, when you're in the groove, and you feel like everything, one touch, pass and move. We're Manchester United. Like, this is high-end football, and they don't look like they can do stuff that we can do down five-a-side. Now, I know the standard's not good enough, but you all know what I'm talking about. When you get in the groove with your team on a Saturday or something like that, and everything's just coming second nature, Man United never do that. It's amazing what's going on at that football club that we never have those periods in a game where it just comes easy, where everybody, people are just like not even looking, laying it off. I know where you're going to be. There's just no patterns. There's no fluidity. There's no relationships. It's really weird, and it's been going on for years. And why is that? Well, that's for, sports psychiatrists, everybody to look into. But ultimately, I just think they're not in it for each other. And that's what needs to change. Gareth, welcome to the Members Club. Mojo's gifted 20 memberships. I saw those W's earlier. Good match tonight, says Scott, but I can't wait for the new manager to come and play a different style. Defensively, we've got to improve, says George, but it's so refreshing to be playing positive football. Bruno created 7 chances, slowly refining his form. I don't know what game you watched, Jag. I mean, he's going to create chances in a game like that because he had so much of the ball. But I guarantee you, if he created 7 chances, he lost the ball 20 times. Yeah, he did do good bits, but God, there was loads of bad bits as well. I find it mind-boggling to think that Ahmad is the only notable Ollie signing to do anything for the badge now, says Bailey as well. Interesting. He deserves it. Give him the new contract. Ahmad definitely add that balance on the right, says Bang. No cohesion, no service for Rasmus, thankfully for Ahmad, says Paul. Positive from Ahmad, but Bruno and Delo poor again. I did think Delo had a bad game. Well, let's get into the player ratings. I'm worried about Rasmus. He looked deflated in the second half. Amran can't come soon enough, says Sean. Look, I think it's the life of a striker. We've seen it with Ronaldo at United. How many times was he throwing his arms in the air, not getting service? We see it with Haaland sometimes at Man City. We've seen it with Cavani here. We've seen it with Martial here. Look, Rasmus had a bad game tonight, but, there's not a lot of service at Man United. And this is something, whether Rasmus plays up front or Xerxes or we buy a striker, we do need to bring in. Amrim does need to make more chances in the penalty box. Even tonight, I know Ahmad's first goals, is in the penalty box, but we need more. We need more. Will they attack Ahmad for having more shots than Rasmus like they do Garnacho? The hate against him has been gross. So happy for Ahmad though, says Ravel. Some of these fake toxic fans are a disgrace. Yes, some need to do better, but lots of you need to find another club and spew your bile there, says The Boat. Unofficial Son of Dutch. Welcome to the Members Club. Thank you. Well, let's do the player ratings because I'm sure everybody wants to get on with that and find out who my third best player was tonight. I can tell you from the off, it's not Onana. I would give Onana a 6. 6.3 is fine by me. I mean, he was certainly not at fault for anything tonight. I mean, that sounds negative, actually. It was nice little tip over the bar. I just think it was one of those games where he didn't have a lot to do. I mean, even the chance that they had was straight at him, wasn't it? But the only thing I would say about Onana is, and I don't think it's his fault, but those diagonals, I don't blame him at all for that, by the way. I think that's coming from the manager. But those diagonals have got to stop. I know he's kicking it, and therefore you feel frustrated by him, but there's no way he's doing that. He's being told to do that. We know what Onana can do. He can play it out along the ground. We need to do that. I can't be doing with that. But I'd give him a 6 tonight. I'm happy with the 6.5. You've gone 6.3. That's fine. Mazraoui for me tonight, I want to give him a 7.5. I thought, you know what? I genuinely think there's not many positive results, performances tonight. So I want to give him a 7.5. I thought he was brilliant. Again, really consistent. If you've given him a 7, that's fine. 6.9 from you. Some people are saying 7 in the chat. But I just think that first 5 minutes, he was the player that set the tempo. I just can't see anybody. I think he's our signing of the summer. And I think we'll still be saying it in May. I do. I think he's been so consistent. And that's not taking anything away from De Ligt, who I think could have a good season, and hopefully Agate will, and hopefully Yoro will as well, and hopefully Xerxes will. But I think they're going to have to go some because the guy, he's so consistent. Look, I'm not saying it's 8 or 9, but he consistently hits a 7. And this is something we're not used to. So, yeah, I was really happy with him. Lindelof, for me, was our second best player, 6.5. Might shock you because I think a lot of people want to see him moved on. And I'm sure he will get moved on at some point. But I thought Lindelof was really good tonight. Don't think he put a foot wrong. Made some good interceptions, good passes. And Paok weren't the sort of team that came to United and did nothing. Like, there was a lot of defending to do. I think for me, he was the third best player on the pitch. I genuinely don't remember him doing anything wrong. And I think sometimes agenda means that people that maybe will be sold or should have been sold don't get the credit. I said this to Rash in the watch-along. He said, oh, you're moaning about agendas against Rasmus and Xerxes and everyone else, but you did it to McTominay. I said, well, that's not an agenda though, is it, mate? Because a year ago we beat Brentford and I was celebrating and I gave him man of the match. So that's not an agenda. And an agenda is giving people unfair criticism when they're not, when they're doing well. I think Lindelof needs to go, but I thought he did well tonight. I agree with Larsen. I think he did. I think he had. I can't remember him doing anything wrong, and I think it was a difficult game at times. They definitely got near our box a lot, and I thought he played well. Johnny Evans will get a 6 for me. You could give him a 6.5, but I gave Lindelof a 6.5, so it seems a bit unfair. So I've probably been a little bit down on Onana and Johnny Evans. Maybe I could have given Lindelof a 7. But yeah, I'd say 6 for Johnny Evans. Very steady again. Nothing wrong with his performance. And we know what Johnny Evans can do. Delo is one of the many 5s for me tonight. I would give him a 5. I genuinely don't think it was a good performance from him. I think there was a couple of chances that Paok had that were both on his side. I thought his overlapping wasn't good, especially in the first half. He had that cutback from Garnacho where he shot it over the bar. I just think it was just a bad day at the office for Delo. I think he's a very important player for us. I think some people don't realise that it's not hate, it's not toxicity. It's just a player having a below par game. And I think Delo had a poor game tonight, in my honest assessment. Agate, I sort of want to give him a 6. And I agree. And I'm glad that people have done that. It wasn't setting the world on fire. But there were some good tackles and there were some good passes and there were some bad passes. But fundamentally, it was a battle in that midfield today. Paok were stronger than us, and they are a very strong team. But I thought, in fact, I think Agate and Casemiro were both 6 for me today. Casemiro, I sort of agree, 6.1, but I wouldn't go to a 6.5. I think they both did a decent job, and I think I would give them both a 6. I'm very, very interested to see what Amorim's going to do with his midfield pivot, because Eriksen came on, Mainu's got to come back, Agate's in there. I don't know. I don't know at the moment. Ahmad, look, I've got to give him an 8. Yeah, give him an 8. Oh, I tell you what, we're very close. We're all, we're very rarely like this. We're very, very close collectively tonight. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about Ahmad, the attitude, the patience. He's should have been starting more games. He's got his 2 goals tonight. He's clearly the best player. Smash a like on the video for Ahmad. He was brilliant. Really, really happy with him tonight. Bruno, I wouldn't go as low as a 4. I'd give him a 5. Yeah, I think he was one of the 5s for me tonight as well. As I said, spoken about Bruno. There were good bits, but there were a lot of bad bits as well. So I'm not going to... What I'll say about Bruno is I've seen a lot of those performances over the last 10 months. It's been going on since Christmas. And there's a lot of those performances where some people want to hide it and go, look at his passes. Look at the chance he created there. He got the assist for the goal. And yeah, I agree. There are moments, percentages. Sometimes half the game's really good, but half the game's really bad. His performances are... How many times has Bruno had a 7 out of 10 in the last 10 months? And I tell you what, percentage-wise, it's not anywhere near 20%. Nowhere near. So that tells you something. He's consistently not at the level he needs to be, and that needs to change. Garnacho, I would actually say Garnacho's a 5.5 for me. I don't think Garnacho was as bad as Delo or as bad as Bruno or as bad as Rasmus. I genuinely don't. I think there was moments where he could have got assists. He put a good cross into the back post for Ahmad. Rasmus wasn't there. He laid it back to Delo. He was a bit unlucky. Probably wasn't a penalty. But he was quiet as well, and there was some misplaced passes. But I don't think it was... I wouldn't say he was as bad as Delo. I really wouldn't. So I'd give him a 5.5. Rasmus, I would put him with a Delo and a Bruno. I do think it was, no agenda. I like the player. I think he will be a good player for us. I don't think he's getting service. But what was abundantly clear to me tonight is, regardless of service, countless times the ball went into his feet and didn't stick. And that's loss of possession. And, you know, it is, I will always defend it. The chance creation, the graveyard shift for Manchester United has been going on for years. But when the ball's going into your feet, that's possession to keep. And it must have been 4 or 5 times that it went into his feet and it didn't stick. That's as bad as Bruno hitting a Hollywood pass because the ball's gone. So I don't like, same with the Onana diagonals, that's the ball gone. So loss of possession is damaging. And the ball did break down with him a lot today. And you've got to be fair. I think he will, I really do think he will score goals under Amorim. And I really do think he's going to get a good run in the team between now and the end of the season to prove he can do it. If he can't do it, then maybe the Gyökeres or whatever does happen. But, you know, I want to see more chances, but you've got to be better in the link-up play, 100%. So I'd agree it was a 5 today. Martinez not on the pitch long enough, 6. Yeah, I mean, only because they're subs, I'm giving them 6. I mean, I wouldn't say that they were as good as Johnny Evans and Arna. So I think, yeah, 5.7. Yeah, not really on long enough. The only thing I would say about Eriksen and Martinez is they were on for half an hour, and the same for Rashford. I mean, Rashford just wasn't in the game. We weren't using the left-hand side at all. So I'd say probably a 5.5 for Rashford because we just didn't get him in the game. Whereas, you know, Eriksen came on and was on the ball a bit. Martinez did a reasonably good job on the left-hand side. But in fact, I mean, Mount and Xerxes weren't on that long, but we just didn't get Rashford in the game. I think for about 15 minutes he had 1 touch. So, because I think by that point we were so good down the right, we just kept going down the right. So I actually thought with Rashford though, I think he got a lot of criticism on the shot, and I'd have to see it back. But the keeper's got the front post and the defender's covering the back, so he tries to go through the legs of the keeper and it just goes wide. So I don't think it was an easy chance. I'd have to see it again, but I don't. Xerxes for me is just not on the pitch long enough, so I'd give him a 6. Ruud van Nistelrooy tonight. What are we thinking? I'm going to go with Ruud tonight. I mean, look, it was bad. It was bad at times. There wasn't that much good. I thought the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half was a lot better, but we should have been doing that throughout the whole game. So I'm going to say 6.5. 6.3. I tell you what, give me some skin. Absolutely bang on. We've been so... Look at that. 6 point... Well, you don't know what I'm saying, but yeah. We've been very, very close on a lot of stuff tonight. Yeah, I think 6.5 is fair. There was a good 15 minutes and we won the game, but there was points... Look, I'd have took Bruno off as well. I'm not going to say it about Ten Hag and not say it about Ruud. But can we just say about Ruud, he has stepped in. He's done 4... He's going to do 4 games, and they are important games. I mean, Chelsea's not easy. Keeping us in the Carabao Cup, getting our first win in the Europa League. If he can top it off with a win against Leicester, I think he's done a good job for us. Even though the football's not been great at times, it's still been very reminiscent of Ten Hag. But to stay unbeaten, which he should do, get the win against Leicester, and that to me would be, you know, I'd be very, very grateful for that. And then Amorim comes in. So yeah, let's hope we can get a win. 93% of you have gone with an Ahmad man of the match. I mean, that is brilliant. I don't know. I mean, I think in the Ronaldo days, we did have higher than that. But yeah, just brilliant today, Ahmad. And a big, big shout out, of course, for Mazraoui. I thought Lindelof played well too, but you know, sometimes agendas don't allow for those things to be said, but I did. But Ahmad was superb. Apparently, Beth's got an interview with Ahmad that's going to come up on the channel soon as well. So keep an eye with that, because Beth obviously was in the press conference yesterday and was in the press area tonight. So she's managed to get a few words with Ahmad. So we'll get that up on the channel for you very, very soon as well, which is great. We're live on the fan forum now as well, Ricky and Co. So we've got to get over there. And what should we spam it with? What would Ricky like? Lindelof, Iceman. Iceman. They'll think we're talking about Top Gun. Go with Iceman and see if Ricky gets the connotations. Spam away. Thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed tonight. Good to win. Let's get this Leicester game out of the way and then the journey can really start. We've got to beat Leicester. Get yourself over to the fan forum. We've got an interview with Ahmad coming up very soon with Beth, apparently. So keep your eyes on that. Make sure you subscribe so you get your notification when that goes up as well. Speak to you all in a bit.